So, hello everyone. Before starting here our seminar on startup investment, I would like to thank the Fundação Rui Cunha for having us tonight and being able to speak a little bit about this topic about startup investment, which is a very interesting topic, and we will share more about this. So thank you again for allowing us to speak here tonight. Then also I would like to thank also all the startups here, all the persons that are here present tonight. Thank you for coming. Yes, so why startup investments? I think there are two sides of the coins, right? When we talk about startup investment, one side of the coin is the investors. So investors nowadays they can invest in a lot of assets. A lot of people know stocks, they know bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, real estate. But there are also what we call alternative investments, not only cryptocurrency, but also alternative investments, such as startup investments. And with the rise of technology, with the rise of innovation, this segment has taken now a bigger importance in the landscape of investments. And then on the other side of the coin, I would say, is the companies, the startups. They are seeking, they need money to grow, and that is and there is a segment there, and we are here is to raise awareness about these kind of investors. We will talk about that. So usually we are talking about what we call venture capital. Can be corporate venture capital, can be family office, business angels. We will talk a little bit more about that. So we have tonight Marco White. He's from +8 hours ahead. He's a venture accelerator. He will introduce himself later, what they are doing in this segment. And then also we have our two guests, the finalists of 929 Challenge, the first and third place of the 929 Challenge, which is Bruno Almeida and Gabriel Almeida. So maybe first, just a little introduction, Marco. Also, if you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for inviting me today. I'm Marco. I'm actually born and raised in Macau, but then I left Macau when I was 18 years old. I went to Hong Kong, the Chinese University of Hong Kong, to do my bachelor degree. Afterwards, I joined JP Morgan in the equity derivatives trading desk. And then afterwards, I worked in HSBC for 5 years in both the London and Hong Kong office, trading foreign exchange and government bonds. And then after a while in the investment banking world, I'm just wondering, what can I do for the world? How can I make a change? So I went to Imperial College London and studied for an MBA degree in ESG and entrepreneurship, graduated with first-class honors. And then I work in this firm, 8 hours ahead, a London venture growth firm. And then after working there a while, I always told my boss, Macau is a great place. It's the place where I'm born and raised in. We have amazing people. We can be a startup ecosystem. We can be great. So that's where I am today. I'm recently appointed as the trip representative of 8 hours ahead in the Greater Bay Area. And I'm looking forward to build an ecosystem here. Thank you for having me.
So maybe we can start with the first question, and is maybe also a very good way to introduce also yourself, Gabriela and Bruno. By the way, is Gabriela Almeida and Bruno Almeida, but they are not relatives. So my first question, and maybe then you can also take opportunity to introduce, what is a startup? What differentiates a startup from other type of companies that are born?
Thank you, Marco. For the question, I'm Bruno Almeida, one of the co-founders of iPlexMed, a startup company, and I will go there about what I think what is a startup. What we do is new generation diagnostic devices. So this is a technological product. And for me, the definition of a startup is a company that develops a technological product that is able to scale. So I think it's what differentiates between the normal companies, the ability that we can grow fast. So having a product that can scale much more faster than current companies. But I guess there are lots of other definitions of a startup. But to me, I think this is essential. Technological product and the ability to scale. I think iPlexMed fits on that category. So we are developing a product that has a consumable part, meaning in the consumable part, we are able to scale fast, even to other applications in the diagnosis field.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Marco, for having me. So I'm the CEO and co-founder of Nitrogen Sensing Solutions. And the company was raised because at some point I have a background in academia, a strong background. I'm still teaching in academia biochemistry and chemistry. And during all the work I've been done, I would say during the last 2 decades in biosensing, at some point I thought that it was really a waste, not trying to transfer the technology as a product to the society. So it was like a dream. And I decided to do it myself. And it has been a long journey and a very, with a steep curve, this learning curve is very quick. And change the mindset and learning how to transfer this idea in a product. And that's the challenge in a startup, is how I could pick up a technology and transforming in a product. Know exactly what are the features and finding the right partners to develop the product. And of course, this is costly. And so the challenge in the beginning is to find not only the right partners, but the funds. And the type of funds are different. So when you're doing R&D, so we know they have the right funds to do so, and we have 100% funding. And now we don't have 100% funding as a company. So we have to find the right place to get this money. And at some point we need these funds that also believe we take the risk in small companies, but at some point we need more. And now we are crossing the kind of, the dead valley. You have really to grow up, and but you have to show market traction. So that's the really tough part, is to jump from this R&D, more technological stage, and then really create a product and having people buying your product.
So what is interesting of your project, you are two companies that are spin-off from university, right? So you are researchers with deep research on your area of expertise, and then you decide to go outside the university and then develop your startup to commercialize. Great, thank you for your introduction. So, Marco, so why investments in startups are different from the traditional businesses? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I think this question comes at a great time when, for the past 2 to 3 years, I would call it easy money on investment, especially when I was in the trading floor, because we were in such a high interest rate environment. You can just simply do a cash deposit, no risk, and you get 4.8%, 5%. But then right now with the Federal Reserve starting their dovish cycle, starting to cut the interest rate, then that's the time when a lot of family office start to talk with me. So Marco, where to get alternative yield because the interest rate is so low. So that's the time when investors start to look at what we call alternative investment. So startup is part of the alternative investment, which high risk, high return. Because usually when you are looking into a startup, it might just be an idea. You don't even know whether it will succeed, but then you trust them, so you invest on them, and you bear with a huge risk. But of course, you can get a high return. So I think that's the interesting thing investing in startup. But other than financial side, we always talk about ESG. So for some of the investors, or like myself, sometimes we would look at whether a startup can make a mission or whether they can change the world. So this is some non-quantitative side that investors would look at when they try to invest in a startup as well.
So you give your point of view on the investor side, but sorry, but then there is the other coin, the other side of the coin, which are the startups, right? Companies, if they need money to grow fast, they cannot go to a bank, traditional bank. They cannot because they don't have balance sheet. They don't have. Most of them don't even have the product or the revenue, and this is why they need to go to these specific entities that are putting money on these kind of projects. So let's talk a little bit about maybe who are these investors.
Yeah, of course.
A little bit.
Yeah.
From if you can give you a 360-degree overview of what are these kind of investors.
Yeah, of course. I think the simplest form would be accelerator. So for accelerator, or sometimes we call venture growth firm, so they would help a startup to do everything: fundraising, developing their commercial model, providing mentorship to them, and then in return they would get the equities from the startup. Because sometimes startup might not necessarily need funding at their initial phase. What they need is mentorship, commercialization opportunities, or someone to endorse their ideas or to help them to do market validations. So that's the time when accelerator come into place. So this is one of the investor. And then the second investor I really want to emphasize, actually 929 is a very good platform for investors as well, because for startup founders as well, because usually startup founders, what they worry the most is equity dilution. So when they first started, their pre-money valuation is comparatively low. So if they give out their equities, maybe it will just hurt the cap table in the future. But then when they join 929 Challenge, 929 Challenge is so generous. They didn't get any equities from you. It's great money. It's a grant. So I think Marco and Jose, definitely they have done such a great job in helping these startup founders. So that's why sometimes when I talk with the startup founders, I will also always advise them, go to join some competition. You can get the grant, you get the media exposure, you get the endorsement, and then you don't need to give out your equity. So yeah, it's great. And then of course there are other investors as well. For example, venture capital. But then if you look into venture capital, of course there are different stages, which we will talk about that later. But usually there is pre-seed, Series A, Series B, Series E. So different venture capital investors, they look at different stage of investment. And then also there is the family office. So usually family office, their mandate is more 360, like they don't really have restriction. They can basically invest on a lot of things, so they have more flexibility. And then there is also angel investor. Angel investor are some ultra high net worth individual who have a lot of spare money to invest in a startup. So yeah, I think pretty much it. This is the investor spectrum in the startup world.
And then also corporate venture capital as well, which has any company, so Alibaba, BMW, they have their department that they will look at startups that can solve some of their problems inside the company or bring some innovation as well.
Yeah, that's actually a good point, because one of our portfolio company is from Dublin, and they are a telemedicine company. And I just brought them to China months ago, and recently they just got invested by one of a very huge insurance company corporate venture arm, because it aligned with that insurance company's strategic objective. So that insurance company would like to expand their client base in Greater Bay Area, show to the clients that they really care about medical, they really care about health benefits for their clients. So that's why they have invested in one of these startups.
Gabriele and Bruno, when you started your journey as investors, did you, as entrepreneurs, sorry, did you already know about this world of venture capital? Did you, how it come to you, knowing and seeking for funding, and what was your process?
Speaking from iPlexMed side, we were fortunate enough to start these with pre-acceleration programs and acceleration programs without taking any equity. So we resort to the local ecosystem in the Braga region in Portugal. So we have structures like Startup Braga that does an amazing job. And essentially, they gave us the first advices. We structured the business model and the finance side of it, starting to know what is a VC, what is business angel, what type of money that we can raise. It was all part of this pre-acceleration and acceleration program. So that was the first time that we start speaking the same language. As you imagine, and as you mentioned, we came from academia. So we are used to know and think about research and technology and not from the business side of it. So for us, it was like having the first dictionary, so we could speak the same language. After that, we also take part of the local ecosystem to know and have the connections with the VCs and the business angels in the area. So that was the first time that we could indeed get in contact with them and expose our idea. But since the things were structured from the beginning, it was easy to know, it was more easy for us to approach them because we already know the same language. So we have business model structured, the idea was really structured, so it was easy to approach the investors at that stage. So I strongly believe on this kind of things at the beginning.
Can you elaborate a little bit more? Startup Braga is a very known incubator in the north of Portugal. So can you give more examples, you know, when you went outside from the university, I mean, when you joined Startup Braga, what kind of, you know, interaction of things you've done with them?
I really believe on these ecosystems. So not only institutions like Startup Braga, but even inside academia, we need institutions like that. And again, we were fortunate that at that time, at the medical school, they created an infrastructure that deals with intellectual property, and what they essentially do is look to the research projects and tell to the researchers, hey, look, what you have in hands has potential to be transformed into a company, into a business. So after that, we took the chance to speak with Startup Braga, and Startup Braga has funds from the municipality just with the main objective to support entrepreneurs. They give free space to you and they give mentorship for free to you. And this is really important because without that, we cannot speak the same language. And I think, I strongly believe that those kind of infrastructures, they are like a bridge between academia and the business side. And without that specific bridge, most of the projects cannot come from the academia to the real world. And I think this is key.
So helping you to transform the language from scientist to a more business language, right?
Which is, I think, Gabriel, we speak already about it. It's the same kind of thing.
Yes.
Gabriela, yeah, if you can share also your journey with.
So as I mentioned before, so I developed the technology in my lab, and as a researcher, I had these two options: or I give up and move to another project, or I believe that because I believe that technology had a value that should be used at some point. By myself, all alone, I said, let's do something with this. And so I applied to a program that is, I do recommend, it's a high seed tech. And I applied with the project for a program, a 4-month program that is specifically focused on training scientists to one day become entrepreneur. So it was a very intensive program. At the time, I set up a team, and we were so much engaged in the project that we did the market search and did all this journey. But I have to say that I never heard about the business angel. I didn't know what was a minimum viable product. I knew nothing about management, companies, business. I knew nothing from day one. So it was learning, learning, learning. As Bruno said, it was like creating a dictionary. But we have to have an open mind as a scientist. It's not easy. So we have really to embrace the cause and try to give up of all our assumptions. As a scientist, we are very rigorous. We think about small details, like for example in the business, it's the other way around. So we have to take risks and think ahead. And so they had to change the mindset, training the mind, and try to learn as much as possible and very quickly. And at some point said, okay, let's do that, let's do this. And we had the chance to participate in an accelerator program when we find the market niche. It was an amazing opportunity. So then we decided to fund the company to corporate and participate in this accelerator program. And then it was a really change. It was like entering in a brave new world.
And this accelerator program, it was from which entity?
No, it's because our market niche is aquaculture, and this was the first international program focused specifically on aquaculture. It gave us a chance to go to Hawaii in the United States, to go to Singapore, to go to the heart of aquaculture in Europe, which is Bergen in Norway. So it was an amazing opportunity, and we could not lose it. So we embraced it, and again, we were learning and learning and learning. And then we really started to develop the product after all this 1 year of learning and getting acquainted with this new world. Very challenging, but very rewarding too.
And you are based nowadays in Startup Leiria,
Yes,
right? Can you talk briefly about Startup Leiria?
So actually, we have the lab still in Lisbon, but we decided that was a perfect region to get started. So Leiria has like Peniche and Nazaré, which are ports. We are developing. They are related with the fish industry, and they are developing the aquaculture. And we had some family connections also with this environment, and we're not incubating in Startup Leiria, but because we were there, we were advised to join them, and we are working with them for about 1 year. And I do recommend. They are very helpful. They know everyone and get in touch, and they're very supportive. Yeah, so I do recommend to incubate in this environment.
Incubators, and in Macau we have several incubators. One is the Macau Young Entrepreneurship Incubator Center, which is run by Da Henchin, and so it's much more easier nowadays as an entrepreneur who has an idea that wants to develop than it was like 20 or 30 years ago, where there was no support, right? I want also to open to the floor. Is Nasser here? Or he? Nasser? He's not here? Oh, no, not here. Because here we have two startups that come from academia. They are spin-offs, and I wanted to share the floor with the startups that don't come to academia to see there. But yes. Nasser, I just want to ask you, because as an entrepreneur, how you came up with your startup? What was your journey when developing your company? And the reason I'm asking this question, sorry, you were in the other side, is because these two startups, they come from a spin-off from university. In your case, and I wanted to, if you can share to the floor what was, your journey on that.
All right. Yes. So my journey, it was almost like a university as well. So during my final year, I used to do a lot of events in university. So there's this guy that actually was a dropout of the university, but was a dropout because he was almost expelled from it. Why? Because he hacked the systems of the university in the last year, and then he stole all the exams and then gave it to everyone. So he's a very smart guy. So we called him. We called him to the university back. I was doing some events, and then he was like, "Okay, you're doing events. Why don't you come to KL, because I was in Malaysia at that moment. Why don't you come to KL and join some events as well for entrepreneurs?" And then I started going, and then I found out that there's people that are like 18, 19, and they're doing startups. That's when I decided to do my own startup. But it was the last year of university, and then I went to Mozambique, and then I decided to push on the idea, and I came up with barriers because it's a fintech. You need regulation. Spent 2 years to get a license, and then eventually got the license. And then
Can you explain your background and also your
Yeah.
startup, what you do?
So background is in software engineering. First version of the app of the platform that we're developing was by me, and then we now have 10 people in the team. I'm just mostly doing management stuff, which I don't enjoy much. I'm a product person mostly. I like to spend time with the product and iterating and improving the things. So right now, we have 10 people in the team. That's I'm doing an MBA as well at the moment, so just trying to push it.
Well, thank you for sharing your story. Maybe we could talk a little bit about the size of investments, right? I mean, you talk about pre-seed, seed, Series A, Series B, Series C. A lot of people in the room, what is about? I prepare here 1 or 2 slides, and maybe we can is much easier. And since you are more working on the investor side, if you can explain a little bit the stage of investments.
Yeah, sure. So usually when we are looking into investment, the first things that we ask the founders would be, which stage are you at? Because it really depends a lot, because different venture capital firms, they have different investment thesis. They have to be accountable to the limited partner. So that's why usually they would set, for example, we only look at Series A and after, maybe because Series A is more mature. Or some people would feel like Series A is too expensive, the valuation is too high. So usually they would prefer maybe C stage. So it really depends. But in general, C stage is idea origination. So you might not necessarily have anything. You might not even have a team. Maybe you are just 2 founders with a crazy idea. But then I'm an angel investor and I think, okay, you are the idea that I want. Then I give you money. So usually the ticket size is relatively smaller, maybe $500K US. But then after 1 to 2 years, when you are more matured, you have your own team, you have your MVP. MVP means minimum viable product. So like a prototype, then, or when you get your first set of customer, then you grow to what we call pre-Series A or Series A. Then at this time, the ticket size is relatively larger, maybe 500K to 2 million US dollar. So that's why here we see the Series A. And then of course, depending on how well your company is doing, how well your team is doing, maybe you grow extremely fast, maybe after 1 to 2 years, 2 to 3 years, you accelerate so much, then you go to Series B, Series C. And then, of course, the end goal is to go IPO or to go for an exit. So, yeah.
So here is the life of a company, right? From the concept idea, implementing the idea, getting customers, getting even more customers, expanding into other countries. And this is usually the value. So when we talk about a pre-seed goes to, even the tickets can be less, $10,000 to $1 million for a pre-seed proof of concept or prototype. Then Series A usually is when we reach 10 million US dollars on investment. And this money usually will go to development of operations, to sales, to business development, branding, marketing. Then what we call Series B, 50 million to 25 millions. So hiring more people to scale more, of market expansion, buying other small businesses, and then the Series C, which what we call large-scale expansion, international markets, which is 50 million US dollars, and then the unicorns that we all hear. Unicorns are companies that can reach 1 billion US dollars valuation, and usually they reach that because they receive a lot of investment from different investors. So when you see all these acronyms of Series A, Series B, Series C, at least now you know what we are talking about. Is there any example in Macau of that you can give, that you know about, that are being successful?
Yeah, as a Macanese, I'm very proud to say we really have a Series A company. Maybe I don't name it because it's a live stream.
No, you can name, of course.
Okay,
it's public.
You know, just you know, in our investment world, we are always like trying to be discreet. But you know, I'm a Macanese. This is a family-like setting, so I can talk about whatever I want. So yeah, one of the most successful one is actually DigiFluid. So they are actually a spin-off from University of Macau. And I actually went to the lab last week in Hangqin. Very, very impressive. So what they do is that, because usually when you are trying to do a medical diagnosis, you have to send it to the lab. Maybe it takes you 1 to 2 days to figure out the result, get the result. But then they have a very good machine with good technology. You can just get the result within a short period of time. So essentially, that's what they are doing. And based on what I know, they have already get some FDA approval, or in the process of getting the FDA approval as well. So they are a very great example of, you know, support from University of Macau, coming from a university incubator, and then later on get investment, and then right now Series A. So I think, yeah, they are the perfect example, and it also shows to us that, you know, as Macanese in Macau, we can do something, right? We have great people here. We can. There will be more and more DigiFluid in the future. Yeah.
Do you know other examples like the T1?
Oh yeah. So there is another T1 which is invested by a Hong Kong venture capital, which I wouldn't name it because
And Alibaba.
Alibaba.
Fund.
Exactly. And they are doing really well, and they are local Macanese as well. I think they are incubated from the Dahangqing Incubation Center. So
basically, they recycle all the process when you do tea, the leaves, and then with the process that they have, they build
build some soap or some consumer goods. So it's actually a great example because they are B2C model, so they are business to consumer model. Whereas for DigiFluid, they are B2B model, business to business model. So yeah, Macau have two great examples. One is B2B, one is B2C. And get investor from overseas. One is from University of Macau Incubation Center, another one is from Dahangqing Incubation Center, which I recently got appointed as an advisor to Dahangqing Incubation Center. So hopefully we will be able to see more and more examples coming up from that incubation center.
We have also the app Aomi.
Oh yeah.
The food. Bon, we Western, we don't use it too much because it's all in Chinese. But the Aomi app was the first app to order food, right?
Yeah.
And they also were successful to raise funds in the OTC market in the United States.
I'm using that as well, even though I've just come back to Macau for 2 weeks. Because sometimes when you go to the restaurants, they have some special coupons which you have to get it in Aomi. So so I think these are just some good examples because Aomi is actually a software as a solution, SaaS. But then, like for the previous example, one of them is from MedTech sector. So yeah, we have a diversified portfolio in Macau as well.
And then the most successful deal that happened in Macau 3 years ago, 2 years ago, MPay. MPay was just a card from the bus. They create this app. Now is a super app, right? Where you can also order food. And they were bought by Alibaba, 800 million Hong Kong dollar. I think this is the most successful case. Even though they had the monopoly of the card, so it was kind of easy for them then to just upgrade to new technology. Great. Can you since we have opportunity to have you, so you experience you already got some money from investors, right? Can you share a little bit your experience also, and how how this happened?
Yes, we got some investors in pre-seed stage from 2 business angels. Actually, it was business angel because it was the VC, but family office. It was not from a VC firm, so we still don't have a fund. We don't have a time for exit. The time is not counting because every time we didn't speak here, but for the other side of the coin, the startups, every time you get invested, the time starts ticking. Because usually there's the investment stage and you need to account for your exit in a certain time of period. So we're not on that stage now. But everything recalls to the Startup Prague scene and the local ecosystem and the connections that they have. So once we did the acceleration program, so we got in contact with one of the, actually I think it's the most successful investor, business angel that invests in medtech. So it's not only the startups that are seeking for investors, but investors are also seeking for new startups. It's the double
side of the coin.
The side of the coin always. So it was I would say a long process of more than 6 months discussing the idea, and I think the investors also have at this early stage, they also have a great role in mentoring also the startups. It's not the accelerators, but also if it is smart money, so people that already invested in a lot of companies in the same space, that did some exits, very successful, so they can mentor you also. So during that specific time period, we got some mentorship from them. And then we just finalized the deal with, it was not with so many terms. It was a very easy round of investment, but it was price round. So it gave us a valuation, even though it was not so high that we expected when we started the company. But I think this is the reality. Sometimes the reality don't match with our initial dreams, but is in pair with the valuation of those kind of companies, at least in Europe. If you go to the other side of the Atlantic, maybe the valuations are a little bit higher than European ones. And this is it. So we set some milestones that we needed to fulfill with this investment, and we are finalizing the last milestone now. So meaning that we have the commitment from the current investors to continue invest in us in the next round. So I think we are following a normal path of investment for a medtech company.
So it was a business angel that comes from the medtech sector that knows very well the.
So it's 2 business angels. One usually invests in medtech companies. The second business angel has a knowledge in genetics, which makes the perfect fit with the product that we are developing. So it's both smart money, as we say. They already have the knowledge on the market in genetics and medtech.
And 2 Portuguese business angels.
2 Portuguese business angels.
And how you met them? I mean, it was in an acceleration program or in a competition?
After the acceleration program, we were contacted by one of them because he looked, he listened the pitch in an acceleration program. It made a fit on the type of investment that they are doing. And then the conversation started. I think you need to build relationship with the person, because when they are investing, particularly in early stage, it's not only the idea, but it's the team. So they need to understand if the team are ready to implement the things, how the team is working, because sometimes in early stage companies, most of them fail because of the team, right? They start working together, and after a year or so, they drop. So the relation takes time to build. So it was several meetings that we had, online, presential meetings, discussions about the business model, about the vision that we have for the product, and then everything aligned.
And you had to give equity of your company.
Of course. It's another game that we try to play.
So as a researcher and academia, how, you know, because this is, we enter in the finance part of it, right? On the valuation, on how much equity should I give, well, depending also on the amount. How you were helped by your accelerator in Startup Braga also to reach, how was the process?
Yeah, at that time we already had a network of connections, even other startups in the scene that we could indeed share things. For instance, we have a WhatsApp group with more than 100 startup founders, not only in the medtech scene, but then we can easily share thoughts. What do you think about this, or these type of contracts? And in a matter of 2 minutes, you have 10 answers.
Oh,
so
great.
it's really nice. I think this network and the ecosystem, you learn a lot of it. So the more that you have, the more that you understand the things. So it's about discussing others, discussing also with the Startup Braga, with lawyers, also about the contracts. And we just, okay, the equity that we want to give up is on par with other companies.
That's a great bet. Before giving the floor to you, Gabriela, that's a great point, right? I mean, startups is really completely different from the world of corporate, right? I mean, you have this, when you are in an incubator, you are able to speak with other founders. There is not this hierarchy of things or walls, much more informal, right, way.
I think this was the biggest surprise for me when coming from academia, is how much people are willing to help founders in startups. This is amazing. Usually when we speak about science and the scientists, is about networking and sharing ideas, but in startup world, this is even better. Because you can't imagine how much people take time to help you. And if you have a great connection, there's someone that puts you in contact with other person with 10 times more experience than you, that it has half an hour just for any meeting with you. And today with the technologies, we are speaking with people from all across the world. I remember during the pandemic when we incorporated, I was speaking almost 18 hours of my day in e-meetings with people across the globe that were connections or friends from people that I have met previously. And with this, all together, with the knowledge, it helped us to put the company up. So I think this is really important, and it was a nice surprise coming from academia.
Gabriela, your experience when raising...
It's not exactly the same as Bruno, which is, I think,
Great.
it's ritual for the discussion. Yeah. So as I mentioned before, so we started with this accelerating program after doing this entrepreneurship program. So everything was very quick. But when the program finished, we got the COVID. It was 5 years ago, 4 years ago. And also, as Bruno mentioned, so during COVID, so we had to hold on the activity and think about the team. The team is absolutely fundamental to have success. And I realized that I have to find another partner who is in the room. It's Maris, my partner, and really someone that could believe me, then trust me, and give her generous time to work together in order to really build the company. And so I didn't have any business and did not come across with any business angel So our solution was to find the right funding programs for companies like us. There are some programs, and we were looking for the ones that we thought were good fit, because preparing proposals is also very time consuming, and there is a lot of risk of failing. So we found a couple of them that were really we had a good profile, and we succeed with the program that was interaction between Norway and Portugal. We found the right partners, and this was really the trigger. So we succeed with this program. The budget was really high. So also the challenge, of course, but it was really the point that we start working really hardly to develop the product. We also applied to European program from the EIC. That's for Women Tech EU. It's me, like scientists, women, trying to leverage the technology. Again, we succeed. We got more money, and that was really the opportunity to get a prototype and start validating the prototype. And then we realized that now we need more money, you have to go fast, and then we applied to Portugal Ventures. So step by step, we were improving and give more value to the company. And again, they enjoy very much the project, and we succeed. And then, but now it's capital, so it's private capital, although it's with Portuguese funds, I mean the national funds. So we got, it's a small ticket, it was 100K, but the time is counting, yes. Now we have to raise more fund. But again, it's like smart money, so they are very supportive, and they also broaden our network, and we are very happy with this opportunity, yeah.
Great.
And we have a very nice cap table, which was very attracting for them, because after all, we didn't give away the equity, only a small amount, and so Maris and I, we are the owners of the company mostly.
Great. And now what is your I mean, you are still seeking for investment, right? What is your, so now, how is your process of research of this VC? Because the venture capital world, as you may know, they are very specific. Generally, they are very specialized, right? Or some on medtech, some on platforms, some only on AI. So did you do this research on your? Do you know where in Portugal or in Europe, where are these do you have the exact idea who are these VC? How to reach them? How was this?
Maybe
this
I can
process?
start in my case.
Yes.
So we are moving in the water tech space, and they come to us. So they are looking. They have the funds, and they're looking for companies specialized in water technology. So we will address from some of these funds, 3, 4, 5, I don't know how many, but some of them were really interested, although they need to have more, the technology more mature with market traction. So we have the contacts, and we know there was not the right moment. So, but in next year, we have to come back to them. They are open wide, so we keep up the relationship until there is the right moment. But they do understand the problem, the need, so it's easy to chat. And so, and as I mentioned, so they come to us. It was really easy in our case.
Case, as I said, networking is essential. So if you already have an investor that normally only invests in your expertise, medtech, your referral from your actual VC or business angel is the best thing to do. So we are trying now to find a leading investor, starting from the connections of the current business angels. So essentially is that mainly because they will continue to invest, obviously after we finish the milestones that we need to finish. And I think it's the best practice is, okay, your current investors leads you to your next round of investment. I think it's the best way to do it when you already have one that is smart money in your area of expertise.
So referrals, right, are very important in between VCs because VCs are more on stage mature CB, others more on less bigger, less ticket, the amount of tickets smaller. So what for I mean for startups, entrepreneurs, that what you recommend for them when they are looking for investment? They already have their maybe MVP or product. What you would recommend for them when looking to this world of investors?
Yeah, of course. I think just don't look at the money, because like sometimes people are just like, whoever give me the largest funding, whatever, and then I would just go with him. But then like the two founders here, they have shared, very good insight with us. In the startup world, it's always about trust, relationship, personality, and culture match. And this is not built within a day. So usually when I talk with founders, the first thing that I ask myself is, do I see myself working with him or her for the next 5 to 10 years? And then if the answer is no, no matter how great the idea is, probably maybe we just can't work together. So it just shows how important the culture and the personality is. And I think for the second thing is whether you trust this investor, because one thing in the VC world is that sometimes we have to be accountable to the limited partner. So sometimes out of no choice, you might have to squeeze the founder for an exit. So can you trust the investor? Does he or she share the same long-term vision? And can he or she protect you in the long term? So this is also something that you should consider. And then I think you should also look into the network that the VC have. For example, if you want to expand into China, then most likely you would like to find a VC who already have some experience investing in China or have some government relations, commercial partner relations who would be able to help you. And also look at the sectors as well, like what are the sectors that they focus on. For example, if they are focusing on fintech, 10 portfolio, which is fintech, only one which is medtech, and you are a medtech company, so you might want to consider, are they gonna be the right investor for you? So yeah, these are some of the things that founders can consider.
But to be more practical, I mean, as a founder, just where they can start. It's about the network. It's about, but where you think they should go and start to look at that?
Ironically, it's always referral, because sometimes I call it opportunities terrorism, meaning there are just too many startup founders approaching investors, right? For example, every day my LinkedIn message would receive like maybe 40 to 50 messages, but then sometimes you just wouldn't have the time to filter out all of them. And then you also have the referrals from this or that. And then usually, of course, we will look at the referral first, because due diligence takes time, market validation takes time. So we wouldn't want to waste time to prove a concept. So sometimes I think referral is definitely the most important thing. Second thing, join the accelerator event. Not necessarily you have to join the program, but there are always roadshow for you to do a pitch. Then at least when investors are attending this event, they see that, oh, you are chosen by the accelerator, or you are chosen to do a pitch in this roadshow. Then at least it shows a bit of your quality. And then the third thing, join 9 to 9 challenge, because it's an endorsement. You got selected, you're the top 16 finalists. And then when I see that, oh, you have these kind of, and the most important thing, when I work with European founders, they always tell me, oh, I want to expand into China, Marco. But then like sometimes when they just make a small mistake in China, or they have small obstacle, they will be like, oh, sorry, China is not the market for me. So, the commitment of the founder is so important. And if you join the 9 to 9 challenge, at least it kind of shows your commitment to come to Macau, to come to China, and come to work with Portuguese-speaking country. So yeah, I think these are some of the ways.
But Marco, let's talk about the +8 hours.
Yeah, of course.
Can you give us, so you are a VC accelerator working inbound, so startups from outside China you help them to enter the Chinese market. Can you explain a little bit of what you do, and also giving practical examples of some companies that enter a China market?
Yeah, that would be
and
great.
also how you invest on them.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. good timing for me to do some marketing for our firm. Thanks for the opportunity. So the reason why we are called 8 hours is because firstly, and in London, there are so many venture capital firms. Capital, ABC Capital. You know, it's very hard for people to forget, to remember the name. But 8 hours, whenever I tell people our name is 8 hours, they always remember it. But anyway, China is 8 hours ahead than London. So that's why we are called 8 hours ahead. So what we focus on is we bring European, American, Portugal, startup from all over the world to China. So we focus on selective sector. We only focus on medical technology, clean technology, and agricultural technology because we have identified these are the sectors that China needs the most. And these are also kind of some of the sectors that are insulated from the geopolitical tension. And these are also some of the sectors which bring greater good for China. So that's why we are looking at this specific sector. And then so far, we have around 20 portfolio companies that have landed in China, sitting in our capital holding company in Hong Kong. And there are loads and loads of examples. But you know, some of the examples, for example, one of my founder, they are two very great scientists from Spain. And then they are working in cancer drug discovery using AI. Sorry for going too scientific, but usually the reason why cancer is so hard to be cured is because the antigen get mutated and then the T cell cannot identify the antigen and attack it. So these, you know, AI technology identify the antigen and stop it from mutation. So this is the simple philosophy. But then I've helped that two scientists to apply for a Hangzhou talent development scheme. So they and their family gonna move to Hangzhou and do their research and development there. And then another company is the telemedicine company that I've just mentioned. And I also work with another German company, which is haptic technology. Haptic technology meaning you touch something and then you get a sense of it. And then it can be applied in the gambling sector, in the automotive sector, in the gaming sector. And I do see an angle for them in Macau as well. So I'm trying to build an ecosystem here. So yeah, these are some of the portfolio companies.
Great. And how you make money? I mean, how VCs make money?
So the first thing is we get the equities, and then hopefully one day when they scale up, when they become a unicorn, then that's the time when we can exit, or not even exit. You know, just being an investor in it, we can get some money out of it. But I think the most important thing is to be patient, especially when we are working with scientists, like the cancer drug discovery that I mentioned. In the first 5 to 10 years, it's just very hard to have a positive revenue because they have to spend loads and loads of time on the research and development. So I think in being invested, the most important thing is to be supportive and be patient and to have a strong conviction on what your founders are doing.
Great. Guys, I don't want we don't want to also talk too much. We want also to open this to the floor, you know, having some question and sharing will be great. If you got, we have a question here. Great.
So, I don't know who's best prepared to answer this one, but excuse me. When I hear the pitch, your discussion, I also look ahead at what's going on in the world today. So how do startups and funding entities help these businesses or help the startups overcome the regulatory and the walls that are now being positioned by many countries relative to manufacturing, technology licensing, and those kind of structures? How can the venture funds help drive that? Because using Macau as an example, for Macau business to start, it's a big world but a small world. But immediately you cross into China, you cross into Hong Kong. Now you've got three different finance systems. You've got regulatory. You've got a whole range of business problems to, well, maybe they're not business, but they become a business problem. They're problems that are roadblocks for a successful entity, a successful startup?
You wanna?
Sure. Yeah, great. Thank you for your question. I think this is a really great question because especially what our firm is doing. A lot of times, a lot of investors or startup founders will be asking, like, how do you overcome the regulatory hurdle, especially given the current geopolitical tension? But I think, we have to understand government are not trying to be difficult. It's just that they try to protect their own citizens to make sure that these, foreign goods, when they come into their own country, is safe for the citizens and it align with the, regulatory standard in their own country. So I think the most important thing is actually to smoothen the different cultures together. So, for example, when I'm in London, when I meet European founders, usually I meet it together with my British colleagues, and then they can share their lens from a European angle, and I can share my view from a China and Macau angle, and this can help to smoothen the cultural gap. And also, for example, sometimes when we are trying to apply for some government grant, or sometimes trying to land in China, of course, language is an issue because we have to submit all the government documents in simplified Chinese. So I would just try to explain what are some of the regulations, like why it's in place and why the procedure is, lengthy. And then usually the founders and the scientists, they would understand it. So I think the most important thing is just to understand the culture, bridge the gap. I think all the governments, they come into good intention. At the end of the day, we just all want to work together to bring great ideas into our own country, share ideas with the two parts of the world. As long as we get that sweet spot, then we will be able to drive things, globally.
We were talking, Bruno, earlier this afternoon, for instance, healthcare. Healthcare is a sector with a lot of barriers, administrative barriers. You need to compile with a lot of certifications, you need to have this approved, you need to pass through a lot of, is a very long process in the healthcare sector. And for startups like Bruno, China is of course a very big market, but believing on his idea, believing that his idea will transform the segment where he's working on, and believing in this idea, so going forward, meeting potential partners, companies that can complement and do synergies with his product, or even universities, research centers that are also in the same field that can benefit from his knowledge and research and patent. All of this, at the end, when you really believe, you overcome all these obstacles. Then speaking about Macau, I think is a very good platform because, when you need to submit any document to the administrative, we have the Portuguese language, which is facilitate a lot of this admin process to submit the documents because Portuguese is also accepted. So, yeah, to respond, there is a lot of barriers, there is a lot of challenges, but yeah, if the passion is there and the founders believe in that, a lot of synergies can be created. A question here.
Is with me. Okay, hi everyone. I'm Nuno from Top Wheels Group. First of all, thank you both, to Marcos and to Almeida, for your thoughts and insights on it. I believe you're still looking for funds, right? So I have a challenge for you, 1 2-minute challenge. You can imagine what, right? So imagine you have here in this audience a few angels, a few corporate investors, which is my case, the company I represent. So I have a challenge for you. I believe Mark already has his chance, but anyway, feel free to join. How will you pitch us as investors to invest in your company, if you accept the challenge, if you're still looking for funds?
First, I need to explain you what we are trying to solve, right? We are solving a pain. And the pain that a problem that we are trying to solve is essentially the long time for diagnosis that we have today on respiratory bacterial infections. Imagine that you are a chronic respiratory disease patient, which is 6% of the world population. You get a lot of infections, and the time for diagnosis is key for you. What happens today, you go to the hospital, there's a sample of sputum that is taken from you, and you have a 12 to 24-hour delay until you know the exact bacteria that is infecting you. During that time period, the treatment is empirically. Sometimes it's okay, sometimes you get hospitalized, and a worse prognosis scenario for you. If we can take this time, 12 to 24 hours to just 20 minutes, then it's the first time that a medical doctor can prescribe the right treatment and save your life. That's exactly what we are doing now, with reduction in the mortality and the morbidity for the patients, but also cutting costs for the healthcare payers or the healthcare providers that will pay your solution. So imagine that you are an hospital, you are spending in our cartridges, in our diagnostic solution, but we are cutting costs on the hospitalizations, which are much higher than the consumables that we are taking nowadays to diagnose the patient. So this is a huge market. You have the potential to build a company with 50 million revenues in 5 years. So this will put us in a valuation that will be able to increase 10 times the amount of money that you are investing in us now in a 5-time period. So there's a huge opportunity.
Are you convinced?
Very good so far.
Okay, so let's get started thinking about how the population is growing so fast, and you have a crisis related with food production in a sustainable way. So over 50% of the fish that we put in our plates today comes from aquaculture. Aquaculture is the fastest growing sector in the world. And so and on the other hand, is also the one with the lowest carbon footprint. So we have to invest in aquaculture. But let's think about how you produce fish. So if you have a pet fish at home, you know that if you don't keep the water clean, these fish are going to die. So scale up to the industry and think how you can lose all the production overnight. It happens, and the costs are really high. It happens with Atlantic Sapphire, and they lost all the production overnight, and the stock value plummeted 18% the day after. So they need to keep the water quality really tightly. But one of the worst problems they have is with nitrogen compounds, and there are no sensors for nitrogen compounds, not online, not in real time. So that's the unmet need that we are trying to solve. So we have biosensors that can detect these compounds in real time on site, and you can also digitize the data so they can keep up, follow the profiles and anticipate an outbreak. And also optimize the production in order to have precision farming, which is even more sustainable. So that's our value proposition.
Thank you, boss.
How much you are going to put in?
Talk first with my boss. Huh?
Great. Another question, José Paulo.
I heard the magical word multiple. The good one. You didn't say how long, but yeah, 10 is convincing. I think it's a good idea. But I would like to raise a question. Both these two projects may require a lot of capital. So at least in their fields, they may require a lot of capital. And you mentioned that you have too many proposals. So my question is, how if non-professional investors wanted your help regarding capital, would you accept more contributions? I mean, would you provide opportunities for increasing your capital? Because if you invest only after Series A or B, you may come across proposals that really require a lot of muscle. We all know that business angels in the US have, usually start playing when they already have like 1 billion. I met one group that the poorest one would have like 1 billion. So are you looking for increasing your capital muscle as well and providing opportunities for
actually we are doing.
You wish to contribute?
Yeah, we are doing fundraising at the moment actually, and I've been meeting a lot of family offices. So, but yeah, I think sometimes raising capital is a good thing, but we have to be very strategic because the thing is about the pre-money valuation and the post-money valuation. So for example, if my valuation at the moment is not really that competitive, and I just go randomly to raise funding, then that might hurt my equity. I may have some equity dilution and also my cap table. And I also have to be responsible to other fellow investors who in the very early stage trust our firm and invest on our firm. So I think, sometimes when it comes to fundraising or raising capital, it's always strategic, whether the investors or the individuals can provide some strategic mentorship or networking opportunities for us. And then the second thing is whether it's the right moment for valuation. And then when it comes to, looking into companies, of course, when we see some companies that are just, such a great company, it's just hard to defend, right? For example, Bruno, actually, I didn't know he joined the 929 challenge, but then I already spoken with Bruno 3 weeks ago. And then I didn't even know he's in the 929 challenge, but then, he's the champion. And then, so sometimes, for investors, sometimes you will just always be evaluating opportunities. And then based on your experience, when you see something is right and then you believe it, you would just put your capital on it. Yeah. Hope that answers your question.
Okay. Thanks to Marcos and all the important guests, the speakers, and some friends. At least I know some. I know Bono, of course. So I want to share a couple of experiences and stories, also. So first is Bono came to one class this semester or last semester, asking MBA students in City University of Macau, our faculty, like specifically, how many of you would like to start your business? Do you remember that question? And I asked several times, and then no one. In the beginning, at least in the beginning. So as a class leader, I was a little bit embarrassed. I said, "Hey, raise your hand," but no one raised their hand. They are very young, very, very talented, and students. So this is an MBA situation. And a similar question probably applied to the DBA classes. So this is one fact. And another fact, so today I learned from, Marco, Marco Y, talking about the personality and culture are most important. But before that, you talk about several others, but the culture and the personality is the two words so I remember so clearly until now. And also, at some occasion, maybe half a year ago, with this Marco and several other friends, and again, our associate dean Bono asked a similar question, not particularly relevant to this startup, but talk about business skills, entrepreneurship skills in general. So we had a debate. So whether this type of skill are born or can be learned, can be trained. If it's born, if it's really born, it's like many of the friends sitting here, and if not can be trained, then our education curriculum probably not quite useful. You know what I mean? And another story. This is from internet story, and we have back to several years ago, China government when the job market was so bad, we have so many graduates from colleges couldn't find a job. They had an initiative to motivate young people to start up their own businesses, but in WeChat, in the community, social media. So we tell each other, no, never. I'm experienced. I had so much, bad headache and obstacles. No, give up. Young people, give up your idea and go to the big company, go to the government, be a government agency, etc., and so on. So putting this all together, how do we? Because we are professors, we are both deans in here. How do we incorporate this idea, this education, this philosophy into our DBA education? So we don't want to teach something we don't quite believe in. We ourselves are not so confident. That's the problem. Like I need to come to another fact which is very relevant to what we are doing right now. So we try to encourage students to go to the industry, to do the real, case-based study, the project, etc. And we did a lot of work, right? A lot of work. So many people come in and mobilize and led by our dean, etc. So we, of course, not every seminar activity so successful, so relevant. But we are doing this. We are promoting this type of curriculum and education so hard and so hard. But what most discouraging to us is the students themselves are not quite, sometimes not quite welcome. They don't even want to spend extra time, like like the audience in here. We spend extra time after work, come to here. But students, if we have to push them to go. So this is yeah. So I guess you combine all the facts or story I put together. Again, the bottom line, because we are professors, my profession is a professor. How do we sincerely, genuinely incorporate this, entrepreneurship culture into our class, particularly like a DBA education? So that's my immediate, question and also favor to ask.
Maybe I will pass this question to the academics.
Sorry if the question is too long.
Since you come from academia, maybe you can share some.
I will try my best. I think most of the time is by seeing examples. So we were in academia, not on business. We were doing research. So for us, it was really hard to know examples of very successful cases. But even though in the biology field, in the medtech field, we were in contact with some other startups that were recently incorporated, and we could see the progress. So in that sense, I think there's an inherent motivation. If you see others having success because they tried to go out from academia and try to form their own business and doing okay, then I think most of the times, at least you have the comfort to look to the others and see, yeah, it's possible. So I'm not only a researcher doing research, but I can do other things. And sometimes I think it's by seeing others and having an example. If you are a student doing an MBA, but you don't have that inherent passion to try to risk and have your own business, I really don't know.
Yeah, I think having role models is a very good way to drive the passion and to be bold. But I have to say that I think now the environment is changing in Portugal, but it's completely different from it was 10 years ago. So now you have programs for entrepreneurship, startups, and the faculty programs, they include these in their programs, but not about 6, 7 years ago. So it's something that is new. So that's cultural. So you have to, to seed the ideas, and it takes time in order to observe a change. Because I think the United States is a kind of example that it could be a role model for us. They are very active, and they don't mind to take risks, and they don't mind to fail. That's a problem we have in Europe. So we don't like to fail, and so that's cultural. And I think it has to be seen with the really good role models, and also giving the tools to understand better the ecosystem. But the good thing about this is that the things are changing, and we now see a lot of programs. They're promoting these activities. But I have to say that's not only about teaching and giving the formation, because if you don't have the follow-up, then nothing happens then. So you have really to have these incubating programs and have all these stimulus conditions for people to proceed and really make things happening. Yeah.
That's a very good point. So I think basically is stop giving lectures, but putting the students to think about problems. What are the solutions to these problems? Having an incubator, putting this in more practical, putting them to think rather than listening, but put them to think. I think that's very important. Guys, I see people there that already are sleeping, and I think we already is already 1 hour and a half. So I would like to thank you everyone for coming. I would like to thank you, Marco, for sharing your experience. Thank you, Gabriela. Thank you, Bruno, for sharing experience. And again, thank you, Fundação Rui Cunha, for allowing us today to speak about this topic about startups and investment. Thank you so much, guys.